Max Verstappen hasn't just dominated Formula One since he arrived on the scene, he's made world-class drivers rethink their careers.
Wasn't even a contest! Max Verstappen wins!
Strap yourself in, this is every time Max has humbled the entire F1 grid.
Max Verstappen is champion of the world!
The 2025 season hasn't exactly been smooth sailing for Max. I mean, he's had to deal with a teammate swap, a new team principal, and, most frustratingly, a McLaren that's been consistently faster than his own car. But even when he doesn't have the fastest car, Max still finds a way of humbling the other drivers, and this season is no different. Take Japan, for example. The McLarens looked untouchable throughout practice, with Norris and Piastri each topping the timesheets. But Max wasn't going down without a fight, and pulled off something truly special in qualifying.
Pole position! Unbelievable!
That performance silenced the paddock. Then, on race day, he somehow held off a charging Lando Norris to bring home the win. Simply lovely. And sure, there have been a few rough patches. But, despite all of this, he clawed his way back into title contention from a 104-point deficit, putting some serious pressure on both McLaren drivers, despite having the inferior car. With epic wins in Monza, Baku and Texas, Max reminded everybody just how legendary he is. And I haven't even mentioned his unbelievable performance in Brazil. But to truly understand how Max has made a career out of humbling other drivers, we need to go back to where it began, with Red Bull. In early 2016, Red Bull driver Daniil Kvyat's confidence was gone. He'd been bad in qualifying through the first 4 rounds and had a disastrous day out in Russia, hitting Vettel twice in 2 corners. Red Bull were fed up, and with Verstappen already flirting with Ferrari and Mercedes thanks to some tension over at the junior team Toro Rosso, they had to act fast.
Red Bull
have replaced Daniil Kvyat
with Max Verstappen
for the rest of the season.
It was a new garage with new pressure. Mando's Formula One arrived at the Spanish Grand Prix. The eyes of the world were on Max, and trust me, the Dutchman didn't disappoint. Hamilton and Rosberg, the 2 Mercs, were on the front row. Max was starting P4 behind his teammate Ricciardo in P3. The stage was set for something dramatic, and that's exactly what we got.
And it's lights out and away we go. It was a super start from Nico Rosberg. Hamilton's got going as well, moves over to try and cut off his teammate. Round the outside goes Nico Rosberg into turn 1, ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Turn 3 we go, and it's Nico Rosberg and Hamilton's onto the grass, and Hamilton's had a massive crash, and he's crashed into his teammate. The 2 Mercedes come together as Hamilton tried to pass.
All of a sudden, the 2 Red Bulls were first and second. Ricciardo was the more experienced driver, but with him, as well as the Ferraris in the mix, this was Max's chance to prove himself. Red Bull had put Danny and Max on different strategies. Come the final stages of the race, things were looking out better for the Dutchman.
And it's Max Verstappen, who is on his way to displacing Sebastian Vettel as the holder of the youngest winner in Formula One.
Just keep it calm. Extraordinary drive from this teenager.
At 18 years and 227 days old, Max Verstappen wins a Formula One Grand Prix, wins the Spanish Grand Prix, and is the youngest driver ever to win a Formula One World Championship Grand Prix.
In his first race for Red Bull, Max crossed the line to take his first win in Formula One, becoming the youngest ever racer in the history of the sport. The whole paddock was thinking the same thing. Did an 18-year-old really just pull that off on his debut? Max didn't flinch. He managed front in dirty air, kept exit traction tidy through the last chicane every lap. He didn't panic, he simply raced with pace and patience. And you could feel a switch flip in the sport right there. At this point in time, it was all Mercedes, with Hamilton and Rosberg, as you saw a second ago. But there was something special about this kid, and he'd instantly put everyone on notice. And imagine being Kvyat. Like, Max comes in, wins his first race, and before long, he takes your girlfriend, who's raising your child, and you're out of F1 completely. That has to hurt, my god. Max humbled everyone that Sunday in Spain, especially Daniil. But Brazil 2024 might have been even better. To understand how crazy this GP was, you need a bit of context. Max had been flying all season and was clear of Norris in the Drivers' Championship by 47 points with 3 race weekends left. Lando had banked some good results after winning his first Grand Prix in Miami. He beat Max at his home race in Zandvoort, won in Singapore, and thanks to the rocket ship of a McLaren, was finishing ahead of the Dutchman more often than not. Coming into this GP, Lando had the momentum, the car, and the mathematical possibility of taking the Drivers' Championship for 2024. And to make things even better, Max had a nightmare in qualifying.
Today, now we've got a red flag, and now Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez are out of qualifying.
Unable to finish his flying lap thanks to Stroll, P12 for race day. Meanwhile, Norris would go on to do this.
Names that we didn't expect. The man chasing down the World Championship lead is faster still.
This was the chance to really close the gap. Lando on pole, McLaren's golden moment. Championship talk buzzing louder than Sao Paulo fans on race day. Meanwhile, over at Red Bull, they decide now's the time for a power unit change, dropping Max from P12 to P17 on the starting grid. News that would have, without a doubt, been music to Lando's ears. But cue the violins, because Brazil has a habit of humbling people who get too excited too early. Not you, Lance. You're always in the wall. Stop hogging the attention. What I meant was this.
And through the spray, having a go at Lewis Hamilton, fighting his way through and taking 10th place. The man on the charge, the championship leader on the attack, Max Verstappen.
P11 by the end of lap 1. Max's driving like track position is just a social concept made up by the FIA. He's picking them off like it's karting practice. Outside lines, switchbacks, traction on wet patches where others tiptoe. And then
Big crash into the wall for Franco Colapinto.
Max was already cruising through the pack at this point, but to make things even better, a free pit stop. He literally only has Ocon in front of him now. We're not even halfway through the race.
You could see it on his face. He knows what that stint in this Grand Prix has done for his championship challenge.
The race restarts, and Ocon does a pretty good job of holding Max off, at least up to lap 42, where Sainz went into the barriers, bringing the safety car out. With more of a drive towards turn 1 on this restart, Max made it count.
Big opportunity for George Russell, but a better one for Max Verstappen, who finds himself taking the lead as Lando Norris has gone off the road.
I reckon the room temperature in Papaya HQ probably dropped about 5 degrees, not because of rain or anything like that, but because the paddock realised that Lando's championship hype might have been misplaced.
You know what that is? Simply lovely.
Lando started on pole but finished 6th. Max started 17th and finished 1st, with 20 seconds to spare. One of the biggest mic drop moments I've ever seen. Brazil didn't just humble the field, it reminded everyone that a starting position is the furthest thing from a limitation for Verstappen. Take 2025 for instance, dragging it from the pit lane to P3 without a drop of rain in sight. He really is just on another level. The thing is, it's not the first time Interlagos has seen this Max movie before, only last time it came with a little added spice. Brazil and rain. Who would have thought? Once again, the two Mercs had the front row lockout. They were so dominant in this era, it was bonkers. Max was starting P4 with Kimi Räikkönen ahead of him in P3. The heavens were chucking it down, so naturally, everyone started behind the safety car. But from there, Max looked like he was farming XP. A race in these conditions is naturally going to be littered with yellow and red flags. We'd already seen one of the latter. And when things eventually got underway once again behind the safety car, Max got his elbows out with the big boys.
Now see Max Verstappen overtaking Nico Rosberg.
And not long after, Verstappen pulls this out of the locker.
Max Verstappen, oh Max Verstappen! Can he keep it out of the barriers? Just!
Save of the century.
Save of the century is absolutely right, Martin. Man, let's not forget he's only 18. To be able to save the car like that in those conditions, at that age, simply phenomenal. It was a masterclass in car control and water bending. Verstappen were going to finish the race in P3 behind Hamilton and Rosberg, but this moment of madness in the wet showed the world what he was about. He'd already proven that he could compete with the best of the best, while arguably driving beyond the limits of his car. But this just showed how calm and composed he was too. Once again, a truly humbling experience for his colleagues out there on the track. Not many of them could have done what he just did. He saved himself that day in Brazil, but it wouldn't be for the last time. and he wouldn't be blaming the weather this time around either. I'm looking at you, Red Bull engine. Max had been killing it so far in 2022, with 8 wins from 13 rounds heading to Belgium. But the thing is, he needed not only a new engine, but a new gearbox as well, and given he'd already used his allocated parts on both fronts at this point in the season, it was going to be costly, a whopping 13-place grid drop. Ouch. The thing is, it was a very calculated decision by Red Bull to take these penalties at Spa. After all, it's a track with long straights and a lot of overtaking opportunities, prime for a brand spanking new Red Bull engine with Verstappen at the helm. To reduce the damage, Max went and did this in quali.
Verstappen, 2 purple sectors, make that 3 purple sectors.
And what about his second flyer? Well,
Yeah, Verstappen isn't coming out again. No, he's going to be getting out of the car.
Max is a one-man show, and who needs a second run when you're that good? And I do mean that good. He cleared Sainz in second by 6/10. Absolutely brutal. If you factor in the grid drop, he's starting P14 for the race. Best case scenario for the red and blue outfit. But that didn't stop everyone else from rubbing their hands together like, finally, you might get a race today. Yeah, about that. Verstappen's moving through the midfield like a kid speedrunning a video game. By the end of lap 1, he's P8, and before the end of the second, we've got a safety car. Orange smoke is flooding the grandstands because the Dutch fans know what's coming. He's picking cars off like they're cones at a karting track. Better traction, better exits, better timing. And then, on lap 12, he's leading the Grand Prix on lap 12. Lap 12. Ferrari are confused. Mercedes are confused. Even Red Bull are like, you can chill if you want, mate. But chill isn't a word in Max's vocabulary. After his pit stop, he overtakes Sainz again and opens a gap so fast you'd think he was Usain Bolt. Then comes the disrespect. Late race pace like it's qualifying. By the time the flag drops, he's pulled 18 seconds clear. Just because he felt like it. It's one of those moments where the field quietly pretends they didn't see what just happened, because the truth is that you don't analyze that kind of performance, you cope with it. Starting 14th and turning the race into a wellness retreat, that humbles people. That makes the paddock go home and stare at ceiling fans, wondering what they're doing with their lives. And while that was from the teens, what happens when he starts right at the front, and the only competition is from what can only be called a typhoon? When I think of Suzuka, I think of cherry blossoms, Yuki Tsunoda, and Tokyo Drift. Not whatever the heck this is. There's 4 rounds to go, but mathematically, the championship can be decided here. It was supposed to be easy, score points, seal the deal, celebrate, but nothing about this race went to plan, and that was evident from the get-go. Vettel got going again, but Sainz and Albon are both out. What was initially a safety car becomes a red flag. Absolute chaos. Almost as chaotic as things will get if you don't like the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm just kidding, but please do. I'm really doing my best to bring you as much value as I can with these videos. I really appreciate it. Back to it though. It takes nearly 2 hours for the circus to restart. When they finally get going, Max wastes no time. Leclerc's clinging on for dear life, Checo's holding position behind, and Verstappen's driving like the rain isn't even there. Every lap, the gap grows, and grows, and grows. So much so that by the time runs out and Max takes the checkered flag, he's won by 26 seconds. The man is straight up otherworldly. Leclerc finishes ahead of Perez, but not without a bit of drama.
Could it possibly happen? You never know. Sergio Perez is giving it everything, trying to get past Charles Leclerc, goes down the inside. It's imperative for these two that contact is not made. Certainly for Charles Leclerc, who doesn't want to crash out of this race like his teammate did right there, because he would be out of the championship, and that would be the end of his title hopes this season. As it is, they don't...
The stewards got involved and made a season-defining judgment.
Okay, Max, I think it's maybe have changed for you. Charlie got a 5-second penalty there after the little sort of race we had with Sergio. World champion.
Well, what can I say?
He's off. I've lost him as well. I'm going to get Charles Leclerc going to come in here.
A world champion once again. What a weird way to find out too. It was so anticlimactic. Max got the job done in horrible conditions by a massive gap. He put his head down, got to work, and blew everyone out of the park. He'd finished the season strong, winning 3 of the 4 remaining races in 2022, and then crucially, would carry his form into 2023, where he'd do what no one thought was even possible. Now, unless you've been living under a rock for the past 4 years, you know that Max has been pretty bloody dominant to say the least. But 2023 was the year that took that statement to a whole nother stratosphere. Early on, there were whispers that Checo could be in with a shout. All it took for that fire to be put out, though, was Miami. Perez started on pole, while Max started P9. After putting in a solid stint on the hards and working his way through the field, Max slapped on a fresh set of mediums to come back at Checo in the closing stages.
He's got no other choice. The ball's wheel to wheel and round the outside. Will it be the lead? It's close between the two of them. The crowd are roaring and Max Verstappen takes the lead.
He'd go on to win comfortably by 5 seconds, leaving the skeptics with what everyone else already knew. You may as well give him the trophy now, because this season's over and we're not even halfway. And if you didn't believe it at this point, let me invite you to Hungary later in the year. Verstappen's already clear of second place in the championship by a mammoth 99 points at this stage. He may as well be racing against ghosts because no one can touch him. He's starting from P2 behind Hamilton.
Hamilton and Verstappen racing then towards the first corner. Verstappen's on the inside. He's got the better line. They almost touch. Hanging back there.
God, he makes it look easy. By the end of the race, he was ahead by an absolutely staggering 33 seconds. And yes, you heard that right. It was his 7th win in a row. It was Red Bull's 12th win in a row. And importantly, this result broke McLaren's 11 consecutive winning streak set back in 1988, when they had Senna and Prost racing for them. But the damage doesn't end there, because for the very next round, we're back in Belgium. 10 wins from 13 races coming into the weekend for Verstappen, he's starting from P6 and does the same thing he did the year before, blows the pack away.
Sergio Perez, who's got a mammoth run and dropping back through the...
Verstappen does the same move on Carlos Sainz just behind, so Max Verstappen up to 4th position.
He wins by 22 seconds. And he might as well have had a nap at some point, because he was cruising. Now, you should be getting the picture by this point. Max was flying in 2023. So much so that by the end of the year, he'd completely rewritten the record book. He had 19 wins, the most in a single season, 21 podiums, the most in a single season, 575 points, the most in a single season. He had the highest ever win percentage in a season, which sat at 86.36%, and finally, he set the record for the most laps led in a single season, a whopping 1,003. Total domination. A truly humbling year for every single other driver on that grid. I dare say he would have taken the fun out of it for all of them. I mean, how are you supposed to compete with that? When you look back at it all, from the chaos, the comebacks, the rain, the records, one thing's clear. Max Verstappen has redefined Formula 1. And the scariest part, he's still only getting started. And if you want to see another driver who's redefining the record books, just look for all the wrong reasons. Check out this video on Lance Stroll, because what he gets up to makes me lose my mind.